Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo today. And today we're going to be covering about what we're going to be getting in the patch notes for Fallout 76. So we're going to get right into it. So this is going to affect all platforms mainly over the particular ones that I'm going to be talking about later on in the video. So, performance. Performance on PC. PC frame rates are once again uncapped. However, very high frame rates will no longer cause movement speed to increase. So that's going to be very, very, very nice when you can actually see it. Now, I say it on patch day because it matters more on patch day rather than getting it out early and being like, we gotta get this shit. Also, they have the stash size for the maximum stash is now increased to 600. So if you're not using the exploit with your artillery piece in order to do it and to have your actual base at like 1,000 or something like that. Now, personally, for what I have myself is that I've been running an experiment with having a loot pool of at 1,000 actual storage, and people have the misconception for this. So, what happens in Fallout 76's CloudFront servers is that they store it as an item entity that you're able to pull out. They don't have it stored as a binary or as a stow digit when it comes to being in an inventory class. So for each individual piece, they count each individual piece of steel, they count each individual piece of everything in order to be in your stash limit as a cache on your character that you would have on your actual client side, so that it saves. So it saves on your client side on what's in your stash, and then it also saves under the CloudFront side. So there's no check and balance on the server side, so this is why you're able to override your stash size, because they can't override what's on your client right now in the current state of how this actual glitch works. So again, that's why like some people are going super nutty with this and going to like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. And I have noticed on servers that have a lot of people that have been doing pocketed, and they're also doing this, that it gets a little bit more laggy because of how that the storage of these things is allocated. So that's more important. But what would happen more is that if it's on a character, it bugs out more than if it was on a camp. Because in a camp, it's very stationary. It's not moving all those resources dynamically across the map. So, again, scaling it to be about 1,000 is very reasonable in the camp system compared to having like an unlimited storage that is on your system. But I digress. So, there's also a balance. EXP rewards from killing high-level creatures have been reduced. Bosses fixed an issue where affecting instance of bosses loot. So I have killed, personally, I think about 28 Scorch Queens with doing my method, and I have been able to do that while solo queuing into different servers, and then to just make sure that the server has enough people that are like 60 or above, 100 or above, that would have a ultra sight. I only failed one time because I joined a server with a bunch of level 100s that weren't pure melee builds, and they just completely did not do anything. They just picked flowers. But besides that one time, all my other times killing the queen was literally just farming her, and that's why I was able to get recipes and everything else like that, which has been very viable. But there were some times where I only got one legendary and then like a few bits of ammo, and it was kind of frustrating at times. And then there was one time where I killed the queen and I got nothing at all. But the main issue was that when I was on a server that had those people that I mentioned earlier, that it would take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to just load the loot, more than anything else. So again, if you're pocketing onto your character, it mainly affects this instance more than anything else, especially if you're trying to kill the queen. It's not very as effective in White Spring, but it does happen in White Springs. So again, if you are doing pocketed, or if you're doing something else like that, it does affect the server to a certain degree. If you have an overload amount, if you have something like 1,000 like I do personally, it doesn't really affect the server more than other instances. So there's going to be other things called weapons. Automatic weapon damage has been increased by 20% across the board. So automatic weapons for like your perception builds and combat rifles that have automatic pieces. Something like me, where I am a strength build for shotgun as well as for like Gatling guns. It's going to be very effective for myself because I'm going to be able to take down the queen a lot quicker now. So it's going to be really nice where I can just be like, I got it done. I got it. So that's the other thing. PvP, the only thing that was changed in PvP, and this is why I'm going to be saying that we're going to have a lot of Destiny mob farming kind of instances, is that they only had fixed one thing that they mentioned on the patch forums, which is actually weapon effects. By hitting another player with the Cryolator, it applies the Chilled Frost effect. Yeah, and it's okay, but like, it's only going to be 30 seconds like they mentioned before instead of like 2 hours. But 2 hours is too much. And 30 seconds is an okay amount if you have other people that can help kill that person that was in a PvP situation. There's also going to be bug fixes. So on console, there's a lot of problems with it, as we all know, because running on Jaguar architecture is just fucking garbage. And honestly, I don't even know why that they're trying to support Jaguar still. They should honestly have the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox and discontinue the first generation Xboxes to be supported on some of these games, especially on some of these more unoptimized games like Fallout 76. So I would be saying that, yeah, that would work. Where fix an issue where they would encounter infinite loading screens. Now that's just unacceptable on any platform, even if you did it on PC. Like, just loading screens, that would just freeze your shit. That would not be cool. And address a crash on Xbox where it occur to sending multiple team invites would immediately after exiting the vault would make your friends like suck. I personally have this issue on PC where I can't see some of my friends on my friends list as online, and it's really garbage. The other thing that I really don't like is that you can't message your friends, especially if you're doing a raid and you're doing the dragon raid and they like to do it. I mean, you literally physically have to go onto that server. So a lot of people like myself have been using Twitch, and I have also been using Discord in order to try and copulate people to be like, hey, let's get together, let's go and kill the queen again so that we can do this shit. Especially if you're not doing my solo queuing technique to finding out like if somebody is actually doing the queen. So there's also the camp. Another big one, which is going to be like that. Moving a camp location will now correctly move standalone items for the player, whatever the building is going to be stored. Now, I would assume that this is affecting all platforms because multiple times that I've been kicked out of my base location, like none of my crops saved. And this is also the issue where if you do that and you're on a laggy server, you're able to duplicate your base if you have an artillery piece placed down. So you can have 2 bases for 8 turns, which I made a video on, and I should have it in the tag right about now, or probably sometime during this video. So yeah, that really sucks. Power armor, they said that they fixed the power armor frames to prevent the player from exiting, so you're not in perma power armor all the time, which kind of would suck. I mean, I don't like being in perma power armor. Like, that would just suck completely. And they said that they fixed the trap exploit, so players can no longer continuously disarm anything or the same grenade trap. So I mean, that was an issue on the server side more so than it was on the client side, because the server needs to confirm that that spot has been looted, because they need to have a check to it, and I would assume that they failed to put the check in. Now, I noticed just before the 4th that some servers had this issue, some servers didn't have this issue, so they were fixing it and they were testing on servers before the patch dropped. So you might have noticed it, you might have not noticed it, but I did, because I was playing. Let's go into it again. Workshops. On PS4, you will no longer appear to float in midair when attempting to connect 2 or more objects. I mean, that just says it itself. because I'm not on PS4. It's pretty fucking garbage that you can make anything float. Turrets will no longer become invisible if players are not present at the camp and the turrets are destroyed. I've witnessed this personally when the Scorch Beast would be like, hey, yeah, we got your base. Yeah, no. That is pretty garbage. Perk cards. Ranking up perk cards will no longer cause duplications, which is fucking great, because I don't want to duplicate. So that's fucking dumb. Teams. Fixed an issue where it could prevent a team from being correctly formed in-game after creating the team in the main menu. I've experienced this personally where sometimes I couldn't even invite people into my own team, even if they were on my friends list, and even if they were on the server. I would actually have to look at my recents to see if they could actually be able to get on my team. I couldn't do it physically in front of me, so I hope they fixed that, which I don't think they did because they didn't mention it in the patch notes. But I have been surprised on other game titles before, but they're fixing a lot of the things that we've been wanting to get fixed, as well as exploits. So, I mean, kudos to them. I mean, they're fixing shit, which I appreciate. Mutations. The electrically charged and unstable isotope mutations will no longer provide the player with bonus health. So, this is a thing where it can actually be fixed. And, I mean, I've had both of these at the same time, so I'm a culprit of this because I have almost all the mutations. But it's really actually viable when you can do that. But at the same time, they're supposed to cause you damage. So, boo-hoo people that have been abusing it. AFK players will be disconnected after 10 minutes for inactivity to prompt a 1-minute warning before being kicked. I mean, that's obvious because, I mean, people have been AFK for like 40, 50 minutes in my base, sleeping on my bed. Right. And, yeah, that's pretty bad. Enemies, red crosshairs, that was just annoying. The red enemies where you could literally have a red enemy thing for the longest time. It was mainly just annoying. There was also another one for like the workshop if you're in 16:10 resolutions. That's very specific for PC. Localization. Subtitles will now appear correctly in and English voiceover will play from game clients in languages that do not have their own localization voiceover when listening to a holotape or interacting with robots. So again, I think they just didn't get the full voiceovers for everything, so they kind of did everything. So that's another thing. Pip-Boy fixed an issue where it can cause a duplicate data to appear on the Pip-Boy stat and affects interfaces. Well, that's mainly for mutations. I've literally had things that said twice on my mutation board on top of everything else. And personally, I mean, it still affected it, but then there's also Quest Tracker. So, I mean, yeah, there's a few things that have been really helpful, and it sounds like they got some of the exploits done, as well as performance stuff, which, again, matters more to players than actually adding content sometimes, especially when the game has been broken pretty bad. And I've been, even though the game's been broken pretty bad, I've been personally having a lot of fun because, like, I was trying to farm for White Springs. I was getting bored of White Springs. I've been having issues with White Springs, so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to make my own fun. And I made my own fun, like, sometimes, like, PvPing people and doing other things. But there's also another thing that people need to be aware of is the perk Empath. So if you're in a group, Empath is very powerful. True. So if you're sharing the Charisma perk where it makes those cards stronger, so it goes from having, I think, 25% to like having 35%. And then if you have the mutation where, I think it's the other one where it's Clash Freak or something, where it negates negative effects to your mutations in your luck tree. And then you also have Starch Genes. Is very powerful, and in a group environment, that is probably the most powerful combination that you can do, and it makes you more invulnerable and more tanky if you have more and more teammates that have Empath and you share those cards, and you can literally become like a tank build. And especially if you have a full 4 team, you're barely taking any damage. You don't even need to have a healer teammate. But there's been personally, I've always had a medic as well as like not full teams of 4 doing the same thing, and it's been very helpful, especially if you have a medic that has diluted stim packs all the time. It's actually been something that makes the game super easy. Both of the teammates that I had yesterday alone were both medics, and they also had like food the food perk that can give you full food and full like water and everything else. So like I never needed to worry. I can just literally just keep killing Scorch Queens over and over again. And I'm gonna have to say thank you to those guys that were playing with me yesterday on my live stream on Twitch, because that was really a lot of fun. So if you actually would like to play and kill the Scorch Queens or whatever boss that they're going to have next in their next free DLCs, which they should do, because high-level players are going to be very bored farming for legendaries all the time.
Wait a minute. Do the key thing.
It's going to be something like that, where you're going to need to entertain us on the high level, because on the low level, there's nothing to entertain us. I beat everything. I have almost all the quests done. I kind of got bored with doing quests because, like,
it doesn't say lock.
I mean, I'd rather find out to have better loot, so I'd rather just blow the shit out of the queen over and over and over again, and nuking her over and over and over again, and getting more loot, because, like, that's kind of what I like to do.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just me, though. If you guys like this kind of, like, talk about my personal takes about these patch notes and what I've experienced in the game, please leave a comment down below, because, like, most of the things I've been breaking a lot of the game to see where it's broken, what affects the server, what doesn't affect the server, and that's why, personally, I got the number of 1,000 where it's to be acceptable. 1,000 for your camp is very acceptable in order to do. I don't do the pocketing because, again, pocketing glitches out servers because you're dynamically moving all those materials across the map over and over and over again, instead of just having a stagnant spot of where it is with your camp system. So have a good one, guys.